June 12th. Heartbreaks and setbacks. Mom. Fluttershy suddenly looked angry. Angry as Sunset had seen her before. And given that Sunset had turned into a literal demon nearly a year ago, she dreaded what Fluttershy was going to do. Pointing an angry finger at her mother, Fluttershy shouted, "You're going to tell me the truth!" A sudden indignant look came onto Posy's face. Fluttershy, I am your mother. Don't you dare raise your voice to me. You're going to tell me the truth! Fluttershy screamed again, tears streaking down her cheeks. You lied to me! Why? Why did you lie about my father? Because you wouldn't understand. Posy, finally lost her composure after a bad day, railed at her daughter. I tried to raise you right, but you wanted to be so blind about your father that... And suddenly, without warning, Posy collapsed to the ground. Mom! Fluttershy shouted in a sudden panic before she too passed out. Redheart and Sunset looked at each other, just as footsteps sounded, hailing the arrival of hospital security guards, and behind them, Rarity, Octavia, and Twilight. Don't worry, boys, I got this one. Redheart told the guards, holding up a hypodermic spray. A little dose of Diprotodon always comes in handy. And frankly, maybe now I could get the chief to force Poe to take some days off. She told the others as the guards left. But I'm curious, how did you manage to knock out Fluttershy out? Sunset grinned arguably. Martial arts pins? Doesn't exist. Trust me, I read up on the stuff. Redheart looked at the teen. Try again. The others looked darkly at Sunset, so the flame-haired girl decided to punt. Okay, if you must know, it was the day of spell using sweet slumber special superlative sleepiness. A little doctrine I read about during my time at the school for gifted unicorns. I then masked the aura outside the visible light spectrum because a sudden burst of magic might make people wonder. Sunset folded her arms. So you were saying? Rarity, Twilight, and Octavia then shifted their looks from Sunset back to the doctor. Redheart faced palm. Kid, if you know acupressure points, you could have just said so. I could do with all of these spellbound crap. Mostly Rarity to pick up Posies, he said. Come on, let's get these two to the room next door. It's vacant, and they can talk when they both wake up. It was close to an hour by the time they both stirred. Both mother and daughter were placed in beds, with Posy stirring first. That was a low blow, Red, she commented woozily. Yeah, well, I consider it payback for the time you got me stupid drunk the time we were partying in Seattle when we were still in med school, and we'll call it even. She leaned forward, checking Posy's files. By the way, the chief says you're taking the rest of the week off. No arguments. Frankly, I wholeheartedly agree. She sat down in the chair next to her friend. Poe, you have something I've always wanted. 2 loving children who need you. What dream mix? She's led a full life. The kind of life you should. And nothing's going to change that, whether or not she ever leaves this hospital. But you have a son and daughter who needs you. I don't have that chance. Red, She shook her head. Test came back negative. Sure, sturdy post and I can adopt, but... She sighed. You were there from the very beginning, Poe. Your children need to know the truth. I've known you from the start of all this, Poe, but your children need to know, not just me. Fluttershy needs to know. She's hurting and only you can fix that. You know, Redheart, some days you need a fix on your own. I do, don't I? Posy hung her head, saying, You're right. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, the girl sat with Fluttershy as she came to. How are you feeling, Fluttershy, dear? Rarity asked. She looked at her 4 friends and said, I've been better, though thankfully I'm okay. What happened? You, fainted, Sunset said uncomfortably. Their eyes told a different story. Fortunately, the chiffon-haired hearing was more than able to pick up on what Sunset didn't say. I see, Fluttershy replied uncomfortably. Girls, I'm sorry. I've been acting horrible lately because of all the news, and I've ruined the party we had for you. Twilight, can you forgive me? Only if you can forgive me for my own dumb stunt flutters, Octavia replied. I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't know what I was thinking. I already forgave you, Taffy. And besides, I could never be mad at a friend. Truthfully, I think we all done things lately we can't explain to the others, Fluttershy replied. But if we really trust our friends, we know it's going to turn out right in the end. For the merest flicker of a second, Fluttershy and Sunset made eye contact. And more than enough was said in a glance. Seeing that, Sunset smiled inwardly. Once upon a time, she figured Fluttershy didn't give herself enough credit, and the animal-loving teen had a sneaker and more mature heart than others suspected. But now Sunset knew the reason why, and admittedly, made a lot more sense this way. Now it's just a matter of getting her to acknowledge where that part of her came from. Fluttershy. The teens looked up to see Posy approaching, and the look on her face said, "We need to talk." The teen nodded. "Yes, we do. And it's okay. I'd like to have my friends there. I think they need to hear as well." "Okay, sweetie," Posy said, kissing her daughter on the forehead. "Let's get some..." "No." But Redheart crossed her arms and glared at Posy. "Boss said leave, so leave. Don't come back until next week. Or do I need to get him to tell you in person?" Posy gave a wan smile. "I get the hint, Red. As for me, I think I could use something to eat." That would be all of us," Fluttershy said with some embarrassment. "I kind of ran out of the restaurant in anger after the team flushed again, too mortified to continue. "My compliments to the chef," Suri said as he finished the last of her lobster thermidor. She took a quick swig of her wine, a delightful little Cabaret Sauvignon, and looked alertly at the individual she addressed. Seated on the other side of the table, Blueblood smiled. "Why, thank you. I do take pride in my hobbies." A slow pause. "Well, the ones people would consider mundane, that is." He glanced up towards the kids in their bungalow and said, "Wait until you try the tiramisu. It's my mother's recipe." He counted darkened as he added, "My real mother, that is. Not that trophy my mother's married to." "I never had any doubt, dearest," Suri said with a serpentine smile. In the months since the whole debacle with the drug, while she made it clear who had the reins in the relationship, she allowed Blueblood a little more freedom. She did, after all, genuinely loved him, and not just his money and connections. Those were icing on an already pleasant cake. "Oh, and before I forget, I have a little present for you." Blueblood set down his wine and looked at her curiously. "No doll with strings attached." "No, my dearest. No strings attached at the least. You see, there is this girl of uncertain class who befriended my sister, and while Crackle doesn't live the same type of lifestyle we do, I do love my sister. This girl, however, I have no knowledge about. But I'm sure it can't be good. Friendships and relationships could be about power, after all. Love and affection can come later, of course." "So I've noticed." Suri giggled. "Oh, Blue, you know I love you. Even if I don't trust you. But that's beside the point. Do you still have any of that vile drug you used on me?" "I happen to have a cachet hidden in the family lodge on Mount Shasta. It was for future plans, shall we say. Why?" "Oh, I thought you'd like it if I gave you a little gift wrapped in satin lingerie," Suri said offhandedly. "Coco Pommel is the kind of young thing you like, and I assume not broken in either."
"And the price is?"
"She stays away from Crackle. Permanently. I have my plans for my sister. Plans I don't want ruined because I want her to move beyond the life of just being the child of my father's mistress. Is it so wrong that a sister cares about her own kin?"
"What was that you said about relationships to be power first?"
Blue replied as he lifted the wine glass to his lips. "Yes, call me a hypocrite, but I love my little sister and want what's best for her, even if she doesn't know herself."
"Then you want me to use the remainder of the vibrospasm on the girl?"
"Not just that. I want you to break her. Make sure she can never show her face anywhere, ever again. Do that and I'll reward you handsomely."
"You do that already,"
he replied, drinking the remainder of his wine. Cersei stood up, slipped out her dress, and approached him, kissing him deeply. Come Claim me, she said in a breathy voice as blue blood led her to the bed. Deep distance parlor was across the street from the hospital. At the moment, the largest booth was taken up by an extra large Supreme, a pitcher of Coke, 5 teenage girls, and 1 woman. Each of them grabbed a slice. Posey took a drink from her beer and asked, "Where do you want me to start, sweetie?" "The truth, Mom," Fluttershy said simply. "Let's start from the beginning." "All right. You know that Red Heart and I have been friends since middle school, right?" Fluttershy nodded. "Well, your father and I met when Red and I went to a concert at Irving Mills Amphitheater. We won backstage passes that night and went. Honestly, I don't know what to expect. Was I going to be treated like some groupie? Ended up stoned, drunk, and with my pants off in his bed? Or I was going to be given the kid class treatment? Truth was, neither." "Neither?" Sunset asked. Posey shook her head. "The concert itself, it was great. Watching him and the band on stage, this was the classic lineup with him. T-Rex, Screw Loose, and Steel Strings. They rocked hard, and before everything, I was a fan. So, it was a shock to see the wild, deliriously silly, and happy Discord walk off stage and turn into probably the saddest man I ever met. Don't get me wrong, he was polite, shook our hands, signed some autographs, then walked to his dressing room. Screw Loose was there with her fiancé, so I didn't get to meet her then. And this was just before Steel Strings was kicked out of the band for excessive drug use, so he was already high as a kite. But it was T-Rex who had the most impact." "Wait, are T-Rex and Discord rivals ever since he quit to form the ECI?" Sunset asked. Posey laughed. "Nothing but record company posturing. They wanted to give T-Rex an edge, so that's why, in truth, he and Discord had been best friends ever since they met. In any case, T-Rex pulled us aside and took us to the staff cafeteria, where he sat down for some coffee. He told us that Happy Crazy Discord, a man who even then was considered one of the new gods of rock, was completely and utterly dialing it in. That he was tired and lonely, and though he loved performing, he was still, after all these years, nursing a broken heart after one got away. "Celestia," Twilight spoke as if on cue. "Principal Celestia?" Fluttershy, Sunset, and Rarity said at the same time. "Yeah. She talked about it once with my mom at our place, and I accidentally overheard. Apparently Mom had something to do with it, though I didn't hear what it was." "I guess that explains the awkward meetings he had and I had your freshman year, sweetie," Posey told Fluttershy. "I just thought it was one of those natural dislike issues people have from time to time, but I guess he must have found out and put 2 and 2 together. I suppose that also explains why she tended to keep tabs on you more than the average student. Unless he's that involved in all her students' lives like that. But then again, I'm digressing. Anyway, T-Rex apologized for Discord, but pointed out that it had been the anniversary of the day he'd broken up with her. Well, now I know it's Celestia. And that he forced himself to go on stage. He offered to give us tickets for the next venue along with others to make up for it. And Red took him up on it, but I couldn't. So, ignoring what was probably my better judgment, I rushed upstairs and stormed to the Discord's dressing room, where he was playing with a silver pistol and tears streaming down his cheek. Fearing the worst, this was the month after Flaming Burrito committed suicide with a gun in his hotel room in Vegas. I knocked it out of his hand and hugged him as hard as I could, saying he wasn't alone, that it wasn't the way to end it, but I couldn't let himself end it like that. I could feel his tears choking my shirt. That night, he let everything go. All his pain, his heartbreak, his loss, for a crazy medical student who knocked a pistol-shaped lighter out of his hands. "A lighter?" Fluttershy asked. "Yes, a lighter. When he realized how he looked, he couldn't apologize enough," Posey answered. That night, I slept with him. And no, don't get any wrong ideas.
Too late!
We had a late dinner that night, and then went into his hotel room and talked into the wee hours. Apparently, he really needed to talk. By the time he was done airing everything out, we both crashed on the emperor-sized bed in his penthouse suite. The following morning, we had breakfast in bed, and I skipped classes talking to him all day. We then snuck out of the hotel. It was his last day in town before he was scheduled to play in Phoenix, and went to the movies. After that, he had the limo drop me off at the apartment me and Red lived at and saw me off. For the rest of that year, we kept in touch via email, or he would call me. You'd laugh if you thought how many others thought I was dating a guy named Disco Red. By the time he came back, I already started my internship at UC in Irvine Medical. He strode in, making a big show in the emergency room, and parked right in front of the desk with the biggest bouquet I'd ever seen. And because Discord was being Discord, the bouquet was nothing but dandelions. Common flowers that I often considered nothing more than weeds. The smile on her face was wide as the head. A bouquet about the diameter of a telephone pole, made of nothing but forest-grade dandelions. To this day, I have no idea how he pulled it off. But as I came in, he formally asked me for a date, and of course I said yes. The year of constant talking to each other had tied us together to set a spark. Then it became fire. Rarity sighed, "Oh, that's very romantic, Doctor." The next few years were great. We lived in his mansion in Corona del Mar, and I commuted to and fro while he recorded more music. Eventually, Sixth Street was maxed out of the band and was replaced by Smooth Strummer. Eventually, on the European leg of another tour, I joined him in Morocco, where he proposed to me. We then married a year later, and that's when everything went wrong. What went wrong? Posey nodded. You were everything he always wanted, Fluttershy, her mother told her. He loved you from the moment he found out I was pregnant and never let go. He didn't want him. To him, you and Layer Angel were his life. You remember those moments, don't you? Fluttershy said nothing, but instead recalled everything. The father who would, out of the blue, decide to make a cake for his precious daughter at 4 a.m. The dad who used to take her for long walks in the fields, pointing out the various kinds of butterflies the parent would, despite his wife's profession, insist on taking care of Fluttershy's cuts and scrapes, kissing to make him feel better. Everything that Fluttershy remembered about her father in the past was nothing but pleasant memories. But that was the problem. It was in the past. Forgive me for asking, Twilight spoke, but what happened? Posey was about to continue when Fluttershy rose from her chair. Everyone, I don't want to talk about this anymore, Teen said, a distraught look on her face. Sweetheart, you can't keep hiding from your father, Posey told her daughter. You may want to deny it, but he still loves you. He still loves all of us. And you never told me you're still married to him, Fluttershy accused. You never told me anything. It was to protect your father, Posey answered, looking down at the table. You don't remember, do you? Your father had neglected his career, and the record company was about to drop him. Furthermore, we were being hounded by paparazzi, who wanted to prove that your father had turned his back on his fans. You weren't doing it just for the money. You were actually out to hurt him and us. Posey looked away. So he and I made an agreement. An agreement? Twilight asked. Posey nodded. We would live separately. We moved from Orange County up to here to Canterlot, where I was from, and he bought the house we live in. At the same time, he sold the place we were living in and bought a higher profile one in Malibu, so he could throw meaningless parties to keep up his image, just to keep the press off of us. And this is why sometimes I really don't like paparazzi. Mom, what do you mean move up here? I was born here, lived my whole life here, Fluttershy countered, but the doctor shook her head. Sweetheart, have you actually looked at your birth certificate? You were born at the UCI Medical Center in Irvine, sweetie. We lived in Corona del Mar until you were 9. But I attended Miss Cuddlebunny's kindergarten class, and we lived in the same house practically since I first learned to walk. Fluttershy, you attended Mrs. Fluffykitten's kindergarten class at the private school we sent you to. And the fact that those two teachers were identical twins was one of the weirdest things I found out since we lived here. Hell, your father and I made sure our current house was a lot like the old one. We even kept a recliner you used to sit in with your father. You used to fall asleep in his lap all the time, she said, tears of joy starting to well in her eyes. Fluttershy, I love your father. He has been the only man in my life. And despite what you've read in the news, he only loves me. But it's hurt him to be away from you too. He wants you back in his life, Fluttershy. He wants us to be a family again. He doesn't care what it costs him. The chiffon hair floated in her arms. I wish I could believe that. He's had years to do so, but he never did. She then looked at Rarity, a pleading look of light in her eyes. Do you mind if I stay over at your place tonight? I need some time to think. Not at all. Of course you'll not come over, Fluttershy, dear, Rarity replied, though she sounded nervous. She felt that she was stepping into a situation she shouldn't be involved in, but she couldn't turn down a friend in need. Oh, this better end with the Rarity of Fluttershy snuggles. Fine, let's go. Without warning or anything else, even saying goodbye to her mother, she picked up her purse and walked out the pizza place. Posey took the hint immediately. Rarity, please take care of her. This is... Posey broke down to tears, and Octavia moved to her side immediately. We'll take care of this, the Raven-Hair told her friend. You two with us. I'll go with her, Twilight offered. You two take care of Dr. Posey, and we'll see the Fluttershy. Other than that, both purple-haired girls parted the pizza place. Sandy entered her frustrated friend. Meanwhile, Octavia looked at Posey and asked, What can we do, Doctor? I know I'm to blame for all this coming out, and I want to make amends, but to you and Flutters, she told me it wasn't necessary, but... Posey looked up at the two girls with tear-stained eyes. Just, please, help my daughter. She doesn't understand what's going on, and while she has the right to her feelings, neither my husband or I have handled this well in hindsight. We just want what's best for our children. Fluttershy will be an adult soon and on her own, and I want her and her father to make up before she heads off to college. Not to be able to do so. She took Octavia's hands and pledged, Please, for my family's sake, I need your help. Fluttershy needs your help. We'll do everything we can, Doctor. I promise you, and I mean to keep that vow. And so do I. Granted, Octavia took my line, but yeah. Fluttershy's our friend. We won't leave her hanging. Will you be okay? The doctor nodded. I'm a big girl, Sunset. I've been through much worse, but I appreciate the concern. Go ahead and get going. I'll take care of everything here. Will do. Sunset looked to Octavia. Let's go in, Ivy. You gotta get home. I only have enough hours in the night left to look up what I need to look up. I'm gonna need your help. Look up? What are you going to look up? Playing a hunt, Sunset thought. She turned back to Posey and asked, Do you know anyone by the name Shane, Doctor? Posey smiled and realized what Sunset was thinking about. That's me, you know. Sunset grinned. I thought so. I just need to do some extra digging. Don't worry, Doc, we got this. We do? Octavia asked as the two departed the pizza shop. Always on the run, was Sunset's reply. Always on the Run turned out to be Always on the Run, a lyrics website that Octavia never heard of before. That surprised her, as she thought she followed just about all of them out there, or at least the significant ones. Cloudkicker told me about this place the last time I talked to her, Sunset explained. By the way, both she and Vinyl are doing great, though they've had a rocky time selling over in Detroit. I couldn't care less. Frankly, I'm still somewhat hurt you're friends with them. Octavia hugged as she looked to the real website. Tavi, it's not meant to hurt you, Sunset said by way of apology. Vinyl made a mistake as he's paid for it, but Kix didn't, as he's trying to help Vinyl recover. Let's forget that right now. What are we looking for anyway? Sunset pointed to the screen. Look at the lyrics for Chain Says. It's a song by Discord that he says was always about a girl that says stuff she wanted to but never did. I always wondered about that, but then it hurt me when I found out he's Fluttershy's father. And then, Chain Says it's about Posey, specifically her, Fluttershy, and Angel. Read the lyrics and see for yourself. Since the songs are characterized by Al, it's the ninth track on the album Scaramucci's Funniest Joke. Flipping over to the Discord lyrics, on the Discord site, Hello! Octavia found the lyrics in question and began reading. Even though she didn't like rock too much, she felt somewhat obliged to pull her earbuds out of her purse and plug them in. Starting out the song, to her surprise, it was a ballad. Well, a ballad by Discord's standards, she guessed, in a somewhat restrained song. Jane says, from the album, Scaramucci's Funniest Joke. Writers, Discord, Screw Loose, Peripheral. Copyright Q Continuum Music. Mad Publishing, and I'll Hit You Back Music. Jane says, I'm done with them, you know. They treat us like a sideshow. Shouting at the television says we don't know them nothing. But if they come back again, tell them they just pack sand or go play on the freeway. I'm hoping for tomorrow, hoping for a tomorrow. Jane says, have you seen the rats around? Feel empty without them. She knows she doesn't want them to know. But that's okay, they're part of us anyway. Jane says, let's go away to Spain or get to far away. Let's get gone on the morrow. I'm hoping for tomorrow, hoping for a tomorrow. They get mad, make her cry, but she's strong, man takes a hit. But they mean us harm, and they'll make her go, just go, as far as she'll get from it. Jane goes up to Soda Gate, heading towards northbound. She waits, grows the flowers there. She grows them, keeps it in her pocket. Jane warned, don't ever fall for lies, don't let it keep you down. She only knows what keeps her reined in. I know what keeps her reined in. I know what she needs me reined in. They get mad, make her cry, but she's strong, man, takes a hit. But they mean us harm, they'll make her go, just go, as far as she'll get from it. Jane says. Octavia looked away from the lyrics. I'm at a loss. How are these lyrics about Posey, Brothers and Angel? Unless that's a love letter to them. Sunset grinned. Think about it, Tavi. Chain, in this case, is short for ball and chain, a term for your spouse, plus Posey confirmed it. Once you figure out, you know the rest. So he pointed towards each line. The first stanza is about them being hounded by the press. The second one, rats. That's a reference to Rugrats, a term for kids. Octavia was starting to see the lines drawn. Focusing back on the screens, he said, So, she knows she don't want them to know, I'm guessing, is a reference to not wanting Fluttershy or Angel to be haunted by the press either. When Sunset nodded, Ravenhair musician added, and I suppose the rest is about Chain, aka Dr. Posey, wanting to get away for the kids' sake. Sunset nodded and Octavia continued. So then the third stanza is about how proud he must be that she was able to endure all that. Yeah, but it's the last one that's a gut punch. She heads up to Soda Gate. I'm not sure what that means. Easy. There's a soda company in town named Shasta Soda. The offices moved downtown in the San Francisco area, but they still make the soda in Sunnytown. From what I remember, the name of the street the manufacturing plant is called Soda Gate Road. Octavia looked at the rest of the lyrics and deciphered. Heading up the northbound probably refers to the 5, and the flowers of Fluttershy and Angel, but I'm lost for the rest. Don't fall for the lies probably means not to forget their wedding vows. He's been tempted by everyone from models to centerfolds, given his rap. Sunset clarified, Look, we have enough for this song, but we need to look deeper. I'm willing to bet there's far more than that one song about them. Wait, the name of the album is Scaramucci's Funniest Joke, right? You know about Scaramucci, don't you? Weren't there a lot of them? Sunset asked. The truth is, just like here on Earth, there are various stories about Scaramucci in Equestria. The main difference being, while the human one was a stock trickster character, the pony one had been one of Celestia's grand mages a few centuries back, known for a sense of humor and a preference to solving issues through guile instead of magic. He had become a successful grand mage at Star Swirl. Celestia told Sunset back when she was the princess's student, but Scaramucci had been done while imprisoning a monstrous harder to this day was still locked up in the depths of Tartarus. But the one I'm thinking of is from the French opera La Grande Escarrete. It's the story of a brave young soldier named Vallemont, forced to send his family away while he spies on the country that invaded his homeland. To do so, he pretended to be the great Count Scaramucci, on kept terrors on the family for years, and eventually the nation's military drove away the occupying army to his tent since its gathering. But the price he paid was that when he finally returned to his wife and children, they thought him dead. So his wife remarried and his children were raised by the other man. They wanted nothing to do with him. Vallemont, in the end, died of a broken man. Sunset thought about that for a moment. Yeah, that would sound like a personal fear someone would have if he lost a family he loves so much. So what are we going to do about it? Octavia asked. This is a mess I made, and I want to make it right. This isn't a mess you made. This is a mess that Discord made. Fluttershy exasperated, though apparently Dr. Posey didn't help matters. Sunset pointed a thumb at herself. Trust me on this. Coming from someone who hasn't had a family until now, I certainly understand how that emptiness feels. So he brought up her email to text client on her laptop and started typing, We're going to have to pass this to Twily. She's over there and she can handle this. I don't know if Twily's the best person to do so. Rarity's got the better head on her shoulders when it comes to that. Sunset looked away from her computer at her cousin. Twily's the better person, trust me. Yeah, Rarity has known Fluttershy longer, sure. But if there's someone who has flawless debating skills, that's Twily. Besides, I don't think there's a single person who knows me better than her. Awfully big statement to make, given that we've known you less than a year, and the others have known you longer. Octavia said in a smirking tone. Family knows each other. Sunset replied, a warm smile coming to her face. She then asked, Toffee, what am I to you? Well, Octavia looked at the girl. She considered her cousin, and a person who was a dear friend. She ignored the voice in the back of her head that was telling her to punch Sunset's lights out. There were also other voices, saying things that were weird or bizarre, but all would have the same result. It would hurt Sunset and hurt her hard. Octavia cared too much about her to let that happen. As she saw a flicker of concern in Sunset's eyes, she made her back everything in her mind, so she made a mental note to see if she needed counseling. Maybe her uncle's comment about everything getting away from her was stressing her out enough to imagine things in her mind. You're my cousin, Octavia told Sunset with a smile. I don't care if you're officially part of our family or not. You're family to me, and Twilight wouldn't be the person she is without you. You brought her out of her shell in a way I never could. Plus, you've given us friends, my aunt, uncle, and other cousins you love just as much as Twilight and I do. You are family, Sunny. No matter what, we love you, and we'll always be there for you. Sunset smiled, and Octavia thought she saw something in the other girl's eyes, as if it was lifting a weight from her chest. Remembering something that seemed to be dragging her down. She'd also taken the trip harder than I thought, Octavia mused. I should have done more to comfort her. Thanks, Taffy, Sunset said. What brought that up? Just something I've been going through lately, Sunset replied in a way that made Octavia wonder if her pseudo-cousin, no, cousin, only that, was dodging an issue. It's nothing bad, mine, else I would talk to others about it, but it's something I feel I need to work through for myself, and I wanted... She sighed. Just wanted to know if I'm walking slow on this tree branch or not. After what we're doing for Fluttershy, after what you did for Rarity, Twiny, for Blossom, for me, who knows how many others. Octavia went back to hug Sunset. I don't know about anyone else, but we're not going to let you go on this alone. I don't know what you're talking about, and you don't have to tell me or anyone else until you're ready to. But I'm always going to be here, and so are Twilight and the rest of our family. Thanks for having me over, says Norris. Fluttershy told Rarity. Thanks for putting up with me as well. I hope I won't be too much of a bother either, Twilight added, a blush of embarrassment coming to her face. Nonsense, girls, you two are my friends. I hardly see that as a bother, Rarity replied to her friends, though she looked more at Twilight, the fascination reflected on the alien princess that appeared nearly a year ago. and had probably taken the name Sunset to fit little foster sister. And how markedly different this Twilight was to that one. Granted, she considered both her friends, but the truth of it was that in the half year she'd come to know this one, she found the contrast striking to say the least. The alien princess was outgoing, brave, and characteristically charming, with a hint that she had been a battle-hardy warrior as well as a diplomat. On the other hand, the girl in front of her was shy, booklessly quiet, and as socially as inept as Fluttershy tended to be at times. Still, both Twilights were incredibly sweet, where the princesses had an understandable cultist awkwardness about her. There was something about the human sweet innocence that made Rarity smile. Different Twilights for different needs, I guess. I never respect my friend here, but I have a feeling that we could use that warrior princess right now. Still, one must do with the Twilight one instead, for what one wants is for to turn face, I suppose. Then again, Rarity suddenly remembered. This was the Twilight that Sunset loved, and was willing to challenge practically her whole entire home dimension to save her. The Flame of the Moon only managed to launch 1,000 Laconian ships to wage against Troy. Twilight managed to unintentionally raise a single, incredibly powerful Unicorn Grand Mage to wage war against the ultimate powers of her homeworld. And we thought our friendship would be enough for her. Though she tells us not, you gave her far more than that, Twilight. And for that alone, you've earned every iota of her love. Rarity? She heard Fluttershy call out to her. Oh, sorry, darling, I was a bit of a reverie there. What can I help you with? Fluttershy plopped down on the floor and said, I was wondering if you and Twilight think I'm being as stupid as my mother says I am. I mean, I love Mom. She's been there for me every moment and I love her for that. But it hurts, knowing that she's lied to me all this time. All I've ever wanted for her was to be happy and find someone of her own. But it turns out she's already has someone. And that someone is my father. The man who I thought left us years ago. She looked up at Rarity with the look of someone who had been pushed to the limit, then dangled over. I don't know what to believe in anymore. Twilight went over to sit down next to her. You know, I had a similar problem too, in a sense. When I was being affected by that drug, I didn't know who to turn to or who to trust. My parents didn't seem like they cared, and Tavi didn't seem like she wanted me around. A distant look came into her face as she added, You guys are two of my closest friends, and I didn't even think I could turn to you. In the end, it was Sunny that saved me. It was Sunny that loved me enough to care for me when no one else did. Twilight, dear, Rarity began. I was stopped when the plum-haired girl raised her hand. I know, Rarity. I know you and Fluttershy were both worried about me, as were the others. But everyone else had various things going on in their lives, or really couldn't help me. I'm not blaming anyone for that. If anything, it shows me how lucky I was to have a sister that loves me enough to look out for me. But as to what I'm saying, Flutters, is that your mom did it all for you and your brother. Sure, it wasn't the smartest way to handle it, and yes, she should have been upfront about your father all this time. But she thought she was doing it to protect you. Sometimes when people we love are protecting us, we can't second-guess their actions. I can't yell at Sunny for risking her life to throw herself in front of the truck, because she did it to save me. By that same token, you can't really question your mother's motives, even if her actions were questionable. At least, that's how I feel. I'm sorry if you disagree, but that's how I feel. But no matter what, Fluttershy, I'm your friend. I want to help you however I can. You can always count on that. Rarity didn't know what to say after that. In many ways, it seemed always exactly like something the princess would have said had she been there herself. But at the same time, it was laced with something that a human would say. If anything, it was the hybrid of the two concepts. Or the princess had been around Earth as long as Sunset had been? And that was something else to consider, Rarity thought. Twilight, dear, you expressed what I had to say as well. Far more eloquently than I would have. The fashionista replied. The last part had been a teasy bit of white lie, but the crux of it was central. Twilight's statement had been awkwardly phrased, but very forward given her nature. Thanks, Rarity, Twilight replied, blushing once more. I feel as though it would have been something that Sunny would have said had she been here. Like sisters, I suppose, Rarity replied, added with a smile, to which Twilight agreed, nodding. Wanting to pair, Fluttershy shared. In the half years he'd known Twilight, the girl had made far more strides in coming out of her shell than Fluttershy did. Maybe it was because he had more exposure to her sister that would need anything to her sibling. Fluttershy knew that well, as he would always do so for Angel when he needed it. In a sense, he felt somewhat envious to her friend, given that Twilight was starting to go places that a year ago she hadn't even imagined. But with Sunset's help, she had not only run up against the barricades of her issues, but was breaking through them to the path beyond. Too bad not only this is helping me get past my current problems. All I'm doing is pushing them aside for the moment, she sadly realized. She knew that was a barrier that she wasn't going to be able to bypass easily. No matter what her relationship was with her father, her relationship with her mother had been much better. Even if somehow it hadn't been the case, she had a younger brother to protect. Angel was only 8 and not completely prepared for the mess that would come about once he was involved in all this. No matter what, she had to protect him. Plus, she didn't want to risk what closer she and her mother had. I think that in the morning I'm going to go home and talk to Mom. I think we need to have a serious talk about all this, she announced. That's good, dear, Rarity agreed. But what makes you decide to do it? Angel, Fluttershy said differently. If nothing else, someone has to protect my little brother. I don't know. Angel seems like she is more than capable of looking out for himself. Twilight replied in a choking manner. But seriously, though, I know how that is. Despite the fact that Spike and I bicker, I try to look out for him. I bet if you were to ask Tavi or Sunny, they'd say the same thing. All the more so for myself, given that CT is 17, Rarity added. And besides, I agree with Twilight. Your parents are trying to do what's best for you, even if they don't do so in the best manner. My father and my mother try as well, but they are human after all. They make mistakes just like we do. I do believe you're seeing that now, but you're also seeing a side that both your parents haven't really considered this idea. What's that? That they would do these ridiculous names for you and your brother. Think about it. Your parents supposedly separated and moved here to Canterlot in order to have a normal life. And your father goes out of the way to cultivate a wild man image so no one could possibly consider he was happily married, while his wife raised their children without the glare of the spotlight. All along, while the woman has crippling student debt, as I understand it, medical school is quite expensive, and your grandparents are hardly wealthy, yet as long as I've known you, you never wanted a thing in your life. Fluttershy realized what her friend was saying, though she never considered that before. She had a pair of the world's most expensive headphones that were in no way that her mother could have realistically afforded, while she had college loans that large. And he lived in a fairly expensive house. Not as pricey as the one Twilight and Sunset's family lived in, but still one of the more tony neighborhoods in town. And she had a car, a new one to boot. All those things she realistically could not afford if her mother was running solo. Not even alimony and child support could cover all that, she realized with a chilling reality. And if Mom had to go to court to fight for any of it, she would have told us. There could be no other answer. Her father, Discord, the Chaos Master of Rock, as Spin Magazine once labeled him, had been a faithful and suffering father all this time. He had reached out to his wife and children so many times. And Posey had been there when she could, and Angel was really too young to remember their father. But Fluttershy had metaphorically slapped her father away each time he had tried to reach out to her. All of her hurt and pain were real, yes, but she wasn't the only one who felt them. The knife had cut both ways. Tears came as she felt 2 pairs of arms encircle her. She could hear the well wishes of her friends, telling her it would be better in the morning. She could talk to her mother then, and all would be well, but she didn't know if it would. She didn't know what to believe anymore. Though it was normally quiet this early in the morning in the Piazza San Marco, today was a different story. The Belisca was lit up, and a dozen cabaret police cars roared through the square, only to be passed by 3 women wearing darkened clothing carrying bags. We interrupt this pony fanfic in progress to bring you Cat's Eye. Rushing in 3 different directions on motorcycles. The first made it to the bridge spanning the Rio de Palazzo di Caconia, hopping onto a speedboat and taking off with the Italian police officers, immediately opening fire. The response was met by a second, later by the explosives, the bike detonating, taking out a good portion of the Rivera della Schiavone overpass. The second one rushed down to Merceria Orazio, hoping that the winding, claustrophobic streets of Venice would protect her until she could make her getaway, or start fighting for the cause. Quickly making a hairpin right into Calle Fenibera, she climbed into the handlebars. She leapt as high as she could, grabbing onto a fire escape and pulling herself up. As the cop went by, she stuck into a darkened flat, sighing relief. 2 hours later, so you'll find yourself having an entirely different adventure due to the cute and single guy whose flat it was, but that would be a different story. But it was the third rider, weighted down by the actual loot taken from the Belisca, who was out of focus of the chase. At the moment, he was rushing down the square on a custom-built Kawasaki ZX-14R that had been brought to Venice specifically for this operation, with 2 Carabinieri Fiat patrol cars. "Oh, I am giving my Italian a workout!" The bullhorn squawking with demands from the police officers that he immediately surrendered before further measures were taken. Ryer instead groaned inwardly. Originally, the plan had been to do the heist while during Venice's infamous Aqua Alta season, where half the city was flooded, thus making it hard for cop cars to operate. But an unseasonably arid year prior had somehow prevented the watery phenomenon. Regardless, it would still be a message to perform. Thus he went. With a slight huff of breath in her helmet, the runner keyed her headset. "Theta, this is Omicron. Headed westbound towards the Bacano Arcel. Will need assist, over." "Omicron, Theta. Scratch the Bacano. Cops are expecting your jet ski. We can keep them busy here, but you won't be able to escape that way. Swing south and head towards the Salta San Moise." "Are you crazy? They're going to catch me before I get there, Theta." "Copa's in position. She'll cover you." Omicron laughed. "Yeah, right. Might as well give up now. There's no way the kid can make the shot." "You're going to have to trust us, Omicron. Theta out." With that, the die was cast and the move was made. Gunning the engine, Omicron tore out of the square, making it such a hard left at the Calle Larga Señor that she almost lost control of her bike, followed by another hard right to get onto the Saltia. But even as she rushed on, she could hear the blare of sirens, as well as the roar of motorcycles coming into play. Furthermore, there were the Carabinieri cars ahead, boxing her in. "New girl better do her job right, or I'm toast!" Omicron grumbled to herself. Over 100 meters away, perched atop the Campanile Santimarco, a young lady lay, a sniper rifle in her hands. She looked ready to fire it, barely waiting for the signal. Behind her, Thea, who was acting as the spark, gave the order. "She's in position. Fire when ready." "Roger that," the girl said, placing a violet-colored eye towards the sniper scope. "Taking the shot." Calmly, she pulled the trigger and blasted fire spit out both sides of the barrel and the muzzle, sending the bullet on its flight. On the road below, Omicron was treated to the sun's sight, the leftmost police car skidding out of control, crashing to a parada shot. "He can shoot," the woman thought to herself, hint of a smile coming onto her lips. Will wonders never cease? "Firing again," the girl said, shouting as he was getting into this. "Scratch the second cop car." The trigger was pulled once more. The second cop car crashed into the Cartier's shop just as Omicron was passing. "She's still got a tail," Thea told Copa. "What, are you going to do something about it?" A cocky grin on her face, the younger girl looked up from her scope. "It's done," she said, and without even looking in the scope, she pulled the trigger. The bullet rocketed away from the rifle, hitting a wire strung from one building to another as Omicron passed by. The wire fell, though it wasn't particularly heavy. It was just to note that with the added force of gravity to smack one of the motorcycle cops. Dazed, he lost control and crashed into the other, drowning them. With Omicron pulling a pistol out, taking care of the cop that had just started to take aim by the ruins of Parada store. A second later, a new voice came over the line. "This is Lambada. We've got Omicron. We're getting out of here. Good job. Everyone meet at the City House in Firenze in 2 days. Lambada out." In the distance, there was an explosion as the plastique on Omicron's bike went off, while beneath the bridge another speedboat rocketed away, carrying both Omicron, her rescuers, and their prize. Meanwhile, Thea looked at Kappa. "Explosive rigged?" Kappa nodded. "Gonna be a scene seeing this place explode." "Gonna be a bigger scene if we get caught," the elder reminded the younger. A second later, a whistle sounded and the lights were being flashed in the location. "See? Now let's get out of here ourselves." It was hours later, during the stark noontime summer sun, when television crews from around the world were on scene at the terrorist attack on San Marco Square in beautiful historic Venice. The crime scene had been obvious. The century-old, 100-meter-tall San Marco Campanile had been reduced to ruins. Granted, while it was a replica of the original that had collapsed in 1902, it was still considered to be an icon of the city, and its destruction was considered nothing less than a complete shock. Furthermore, the damage had been done to cover up the theft of something important from the Beliscans archives. While the Charts was not reporting what was stolen, it had messed up with a similar break-in in a month before nearby TSAD San Biasco. What was stolen there was not to be disclosed, but it was clear given the two burglaries that the perps had planned this well in advance. Meanwhile, across the street, two women watched from the lunch table at the Risanto Quadri. The older one was in her 30s, while the younger one was clearly a teenager.
My apologies, ladies, the waiter said in a thickly accent, but clear English. But as you can see, the city is besieged by terrorists. We almost had it open today, but the mayor insisted we do so.
Is that so? The younger girl said.
Forgive my sister, the elder one replied.
She's somewhat burlesque and doesn't realize the damage that's been done.
The waiter looked sharply at the teen. Young lady, the destruction of the tower is as great as the destruction of your towers in New York back then. We Venetians will not recover anytime soon, I can tell you that.
She looked at the table. My apologies, sir. I didn't mean to offend.
The man smiled. It is forgotten. This is still Italy at all. We have your orders to attend to. So Italian hospitality is to show the world that Venice is not afraid, if you ask me. Now, what would you like?
After their orders had been placed and the waiter wandered off, the younger one looked at the older. Okay, I did my act just to make you look good, she snarled. The older one rolled her eyes, then took a drag from her cigarette she lit. You did good, kid. We got what we needed as a result of the op. I don't look like a Philippine. Philistine is the word you're looking for, the younger one sighed. Look, Vesper, I get that classical stuff isn't your thing, but it helps to be prepared for anything. Honestly, I don't know what the hell to expect either, so I researched as much as I could about Venice before we got here. At that point, the drinks arrived, and both became silent, save for the drink used for your waiter. Once we were gone, Vesper Midnight then looked at her apprentice, took a drink of beer, and said, Then you best start studying for our next mission, which will be your final test before we clear you for operations. Younger girl blinked. You're kidding. They really think we're ready? Not really. You know how Katana is. But me, Maddie, and Mezzo think you are. That's what counts. As it is, Maddie and your study buddy already got there. And once Mezzo's team is done with their mission, we're headed back to the test location. What's this? Vesper reached into her purse and pulled out a tablet, handing it to the girl. Cadillac, California. I want you to memorize what's on there before we ride stateside, because I want to make sure you're safe. No going south like Clarinet's group did. At that, both sighed. To Vesper, Clarinet was an older sister, one she loved. But to the younger ones, they were members of the now dead Team 6 they idolized. Meanwhile, the younger one's face turned into a sneer. I swear, if I ever find the scars that did it, I'm gonna fucking slash their throats myself. Stay the airsy for the next mission, girl. And watch your tongue. We don't need people to think that you had anything to do with the whole thing. In any case, we don't want to report to Fianza until Friday. Tell you what, let's take a car and go sightseeing. I hear Milan's a great place to shop. Yeah, I guess. I could stand to take my mind off the crap. And here comes our waiter, she said, watching as the man walked towards them. As the waiter arrived, he asked, Your food should be here in minutes, ladies. Is there anything more I could get you? Vesper looked at her nearly empty beer glass. Another one of these would be nice, she told him. Then looked at her younger sister. What about you? The girl brushed purple and aquamarine hair out of her eyes. Under a cook if you don't mind, she told him, with a smile.